Hello, today we're going to make a more complicated recipe, okay? This one takes a little bit of time, so it's not something that's really good for a busy weeknight meal without a lot of pre-planning, okay? Like I said, this is a more advanced recipe, but we'll go through this step by step and make it as easy as possible for you, okay? This is going to make cold smoked scallops. Okay, scallops are already delicious on their own, and we know this, but this takes them to the next level. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is make your brine. Now for this brine, we have here a nice big pot with water in it, and it will have all the measurements for everything as usual posted so that you can get everything that you need together. Okay, now we're going to heat up this water, and as the water's starting to heat, we're going to go ahead and add sugar and salt. Okay, some white wine. Once again, with cooking with alcohol, use as good a quality as you can get, okay? Because then you can also serve it with the meal if you wish. Now, if for some reason you have to use a cooking wine, which is highly salted and definitely not for drinking purposes, but for your household, if you have to do that, that's fine too. This will still work, okay? Important note on the salt though, use either kosher or non-iodized sea salt. If you use the iodized sea salt or iodized salt, it changes the flavor, and I don't like the change of flavor. Okay, then we have here some garlic. Okay, and we have some dill weed. This is one of the things, if you can get fresh dill weed, that's even better, but I could not this time, so I have to use dry. I will have both the information on that and the conversions for that. Then we have some thyme. Once again, fresh is better if you can get it. If not, I'll have the conversions for the dried. Some black pepper and a sliced up lemon. Okay, now as we can see, a lot of this is floating around. That's fine, it'll still season the water. Okay, that's what we want. Then the first step is to heat this until everything dissolves and it comes to a nice simmer. And once it is simmered, then we're going to cool it. Okay, so once again, this is something, it is not good for a busy, it's a very good recipe, it's very, very good, but it is not good for a busy weeknight meal without a lot of pre-planning. Once you have the scallops or even the shrimp, this works well with shrimp too, brined and smoked, then you can use them on another night where it will work for a busy weeknight. So once again, this is step one. We'll come back in a little bit. I'll show you what's going on and take you through all the rest of this. We can do this, okay? And once again, flavors can be adjusted for your personal taste, for your personal flavorings. And the only real requirements for this is that you have to have a certain proportion of salt and a certain proportion of sugar. Everything else can definitely be adjusted to taste. This is just the basic recipe that I use for smoking scallops. So we're going to pause this, come back in a little bit, and show you where we are. Okay, thank you. Okay, step 2 for making the smoked scallops. Once again, you can do this with either scallops or shrimp. If you do this with shrimp, you have to also make sure to use the raw shrimp and you have to peel it. but you can skip this step if you're doing it with shrimp, okay? But if you're doing this with scallops, you really, really want to do this. The first step is you put the you put the scallops into a strainer. I prefer to use a metal strainer, okay, or a metal colander, because that doesn't absorb the flavor, and then you can use it for other things later, like pasta or just about anything else that you need to rinse and drain. If you're using a plastic one, you're going to want to be very careful to use a specific one for fish and seafood, because it'll pick up the flavors, okay? So after we have put the scallops into the strainer and rinsed it with some water, okay, until the water comes clear. Otherwise, you end up getting that white milky stuff, which will intensify the fishy flavor and not necessarily intensify the good flavor of the scallops, okay? So at that point, what you do is you take your scallops and onto a paper towel, okay, and because we want to absorb more of the extra water and extra liquid out of these. This makes it a lot easier if you're going to be searing scallops or anything like that, okay, because you don't have as much liquid to work through. Then we take and press another paper towel down on top of them, and I'm using gloves so I don't end up getting fishy flavor on my hands. But as you can see, my hair is tied back so I don't get hair into the food, and we always make sure that we have washed our hands before starting cooking, right? Okay. Now, these are pretty dry, so we can dispose of the paper towels, okay? And before we can start smoking the scallops, we have to put them in the brine that we made earlier. And like I said, this will also work with shrimp. So if you're doing it with shrimp, this is a step that you can skip, okay? But once again, not good for a one-day busy weeknight meal, okay? Save it for a weekend, when you have a little bit of time to work on this, whatever your weekend and schedule is. If you don't have time to do it, that's fine too. It's okay. Different people have different schedules and different needs. Now, one thing that I have found over time is the easiest way to brine or marinate something is with one of these handy dandy freezer bags with a zipper, okay? Do not do the one with the little handle that's supposed to make it easier to open and close, because those don't close completely and you end up with more leakage and more air getting in. Now we have this wonderful brine that we have made and simmered so that it dissolves all the salt and sugar into the liquid. And now we take a ladle. I found that the ladle's the easiest way to do this. If you want to do it another way, that is up to you. If you don't have a ladle, you can use a large spoon. You can just pour it, but be careful, okay? So we're going to get a lot of this liquid into here. A lot of the liquid, see, I'm getting the pieces of lemon, a lot of the spices, because we want all that flavor to get into our scallops. Like I said, this works very well for shrimp too, so it is awesome. I really, really like this. If you have the time to make it, you will probably enjoy it, okay? Now, I'll admit, scallops and shrimp are good enough on their own. They really don't need a lot of extra work added to them. Okay, but if you have the time and if you want to, sometimes it's worth it. Now, as we're zipping this, we're trying to make sure that we get as little air, that we squeeze out as much air as possible. Okay. Now that we have done this, I need to pause the video again. Now see, we have plenty of room in the bag, okay, so that the liquid can get all around the scallops. I would not recommend doing this with more than about 1.5 pounds in this size bag. If you want to do more, you're going to need a larger bag, okay? But this has gotten most of the brine that I made earlier into it. Now what we're going to do is, since this is night closed up, we're going to put it in the refrigerator for 1 hour. We don't want to leave it in for longer, because if we leave it in for longer, it'll make the scallops too salty, because there is a pretty good amount of salt in this, okay? And we don't want to ruin them. But 1 hour is just about perfect for scallops or shrimp, okay? So once again, we're going to go ahead, put this in the refrigerator for 1 hour, and then I'll come back to you and we'll go ahead and see what we can do about finishing this and have some nice cold smoked scallops to use for anything you want to. That way you get the wonderful smoky flavor of barbecue, and you can use it in anything, okay? It is awesome, or at least anything that you would use scallops or shrimp in. So anyway, so okay, gonna go into the refrigerator for 1 hour, and I will be back with you soon. Okay, now we have pulled the scallops out of the refrigerator. Remember, we had to chill them for at least an hour. Well, for 1 hour, not more than an hour, otherwise they end up getting too salty. After that, we put them back into our strainer, okay, and rinse them really well. We want to get all the big chunks of everything out. We want to get most of the little bits of leaf out of there, okay? Otherwise, we end up getting unpleasant things on it as it cooks, and then when we try to eat it. Now, at this point, we need to, because we've rinsed it really well, we need to drain them, and we need to press them again to dry them, okay, before we start smoking. So, here we go for the next step. Okay. We have our scallops. They've been rinsed. Got most of the leaves and stuff off them, but I see I still have some more, including some bits of black pepper, which we really don't want. So I'm going to run them over here and rinse them off. Okay. Because some people really like black pepper, but I do not like biting into big chunks of black pepper. Okay. If you do, hey, more power to you, and go ahead and enjoy it. And if you really like the black pepper, go ahead and cook it with some. That's not a problem. Once again, like many other cooking things, this is all a matter of personal taste and what you like and what you enjoy, and having some fun with it. Now, we've rinsed, okay? We've drained, all that fun stuff. Now, once again, we are firmly, but not trying to crush it, because we want the scallops to retain their shape. If we press on them too hard, we'll end up squishing them, and that's not a good thing, because then we just end up with smashed scallops. And then they'll still taste good, but we lose the whole scallop shape and all that fun stuff. Okay, so now these are ready to take out to the grill, okay? And if you don't have a smoker, that's fine. I will give you some tips on what to do in case you don't have a smoker, some alternatives, okay? But keep in mind, this is going to have to smoke for about an hour to an hour and a half, okay? You're going to be looking for a color change. So let's go ahead and take a break. We'll get this down to the grill, and then I'll carry on talking to you. So once again, let's have some fun with this, and let's make something yummy. Great, thank you. Okay, Now we have our scallops ready. Remember, we brined them, we rinsed them, okay? Now I've put them on a special rack that I use, okay? Because if we take a look at most barbecue grills, scallops and especially shrimp are so small they'll just slip through. Now, one of the hardest things about cold smoking, because we want to get the smoke flavor into it, but we don't want to cook it, okay, is we have to keep the temperature below 100 degrees, okay? 100 degrees or higher and it starts cooking it. So like I said, this will get the smoke flavor into it, but it will not cook it. So I'm going to take the shrimp and I'm going to put them on the grill. And I already know that my temperature is below 100 degrees. I picked up this handy little tool here, okay? So it works. I know technically it's a car tool, but it works really well for checking the temperature on almost anything. I've used it for candy making, for syrup making, for grilling, okay? It's really good at checking the temperature for things like this. So let's go over there and do this. Okay, now checking the temperature. Oh, that is definitely hotter than what I wanted. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to do a couple tricks. Okay, I'm going to have to actually not close the grill lid all the way. I actually have a bracket that I use for that, and that will allow more of the heat to get out but still allow the smoke to circulate. If you don't have a wood pellet grill, okay, I will come back in just a couple minutes and give you some tips on that, okay? So hold on. Okay, as you can see, I've braced the door up so that it doesn't close all the way, so we'll keep it cooler inside there. Now, as I said, there are a couple tricks that you can do if you do not have a wood pellet grill. If you have a charcoal grill, what you can do is you can take and you soak wood chips and then you put it on top of the charcoal after you've already lit it, okay? Ideally, I would be doing this cold smoking in colder weather. Unfortunately, I'm not always the best at planning this. You know, we're all human, and I really wanted to get this and get these done so that I can have them for later. Anyway, if I did it in colder weather, it'd be a lot easier to maintain the temperature below 100 degrees, even in a wood pellet grill like this. Now, if you don't have a charcoal grill and you don't have a wood pellet grill and you're not fancy enough to have an electric smoker, which I don't have, kind of wish I did, but you know, I limited on space. So we do what we can, okay? If you don't have a charcoal grill or a wood pellet grill or a smoker, what you can do instead is you can get a thing that's called a smoke tube, okay? It's a metal tube that you put wood chips into. Now make sure to soak the wood chips first so that they're wet, because if they're totally dry, they'll just burn, okay? And then you put them into the smoke tube, and with that, then you have to light it, and you need a kind of a map gas torch or something similar to that, so that I've tried doing it with the light stick. It doesn't work, okay? Just it's not powerful enough. So what you have to do is then you put the wood chips in and you light them with that, and you want to get them smoking, and then you put that into your you can use that on a propane or an electric grill, and then you close the lid. Once again, keep the temperature below 100 degrees, okay? And then we just let it sit for an hour to an hour and a half. This seems like a lot of time, but that's how long it takes to get the smoke flavor into it. And this makes it taste so good, and then you have a smoky barbecue goodness that you can have even in winter. Okay, and so we'll come back to this when they're closer to done, and I can show you how it's progressing. So thank you, and let's have some fun with this, because this is really good. So thank you. Okay, now we have finished smoking the scallops. Like I said, this can work for scallops or shrimp. And you could probably get away with doing it with small pieces of fish, bite-sized pieces, or maybe just a little bit larger if you want it, about no larger than a 2x2 square, and make sure it's a firm fish, okay? But here we go. You see that nice golden color we have on most of these? Okay. That is what we're looking for. That means they are smoked. That means the flavor's in there, and it's going to taste wonderful. And now what you can do at this point is you can take them off the grill and cool them thoroughly. It's important to cool them thoroughly if you're going to do this next step. And then you can freeze them. If you're going to freeze them, you want to freeze them separately, like on a lined baking sheet in the freezer, okay? And then put them into some kind of food storage, either a vacuum sealer or a Ziploc bag. I prefer the vacuum sealing because then it helps keep out extra moisture and you don't end up with a freezer burn, and they last a little bit longer. But this is now, we have some smoked scallops. I'm going to figure out something wonderful to do with them, and it will taste great. And even this way, even when they're cooked inside, you will still get the smoky goodness of the barbecue, and I love that. So let me know what you think. Have a great day. Have some fun with this and enjoy. Okay. Once again, you can vary the flavors of the brine that you use for this. It's okay. Hey, make it your own. So have a great day, and thank you.